decision to cut services at the Modbury Hospital, in particular the removal of emergency surgery, the downgrading of the hospital's emergency department and the closure of its high dependency unit. That this House notes that as a consequence of these changes, life-threatening emergencies are now diverted to the Lyle McEwen Hospital and other hospitals, and accordingly that some North Eastern Adelaide residents now have to travel further and wait longer to access emergency department services. And C recognises that the Labor government's Transforming Health plan is changing the focus of Modbury Hospital from a general community hospital for the people of the northeastern suburbs to an elective surgery and rehabilitation centre for the whole of northern Adelaide. Madam Acting Deputy Speaker, this is a very important motion for the people of my electorate in Morialta, particularly those living in Highbury, north of the river, and some of the hills communities for which the Modbury Hospital is often the first hospital of call, but also indeed for people in Rostrevor, Athelston and all of the other suburbs in Morialta, because of course there are flow-on effects of the changes at Modbury, as there are across the whole of the northeastern suburbs. This is a tremendously important motion for the people of the northeast, and it's notable the lack of interest from the government in dealing with the challenges that the Modbury Hospital is now facing. I fear that the lack of interest of the government would come as an absolute shock to residents of the northeast who turned up at their polling booths at the last election in seats like Newland, in seats like Flory, in seats probably like Wright. I wasn't on the polling booth, but I didn't see, to see signs put out by the Labor Party saying "Save Modbury Hospital, vote Labor." And of course, what does the Labor Party do when they attain government? They betray those people of the northeast. They cut services to Modbury Hospital. They portray themselves before an election as the saviours of Modbury Hospital, as the champions of Modbury Hospital, and then display their true character after the election when they're willing, just as they did at the Repat, just as they did at Noarlunga, to betray those communities. And instead of supporting those services, withdraw them. The Labor's downgrade of key services at Modbury Hospital is, of course, as part of its discredited Transforming Health experiment. Now, under Transforming Health, Modbury Hospital will no longer be a general community hospital. It's becoming a centre for rehabilitation, day surgery and outpatients. Before Transforming Health, life-threatening emergencies were treated on site. After Transforming Health, life-threatening emergencies are diverted away from Modbury or stabilised and then transferred. Before Transforming Health, there was a high dependency unit on site. After Transforming Health, there's no ICU or HDU backup on site. Before Transforming Health, there was a 24-hour emergency surgery at Modbury. After Transforming Health, there's no emergency surgery, no 24-hour on-site anaesthetic service or theatre team. Before Transforming Health, there were acute surgical wards. After Transforming Health, there are no acute surgical wards. Before Transforming Health, there was access to a range of medical wards, but after Transforming Health, they have lost two-thirds of their medical beds, and now only short-stay, low-acuity beds are available. And before Transforming Health, there were acute cardiology beds. Now, no cardiology admissions. At the 2014 election, Labor promised a $46 million upgrade of Modbury Hospital. That budget was subsequently cut by $14 million. Before the 2014 election, a redeveloped Modbury Emergency Department opened with 40 treatment and assessment bays. Now there are only 29 bays operating. Downgrade after downgrade, cut after cut. That's what this government has done to Modbury Hospital. That's what this Labor Party has done to the people of the North East. Not with them, to them. The emergency department has been downgraded. Modbury Emergency Department no longer deals with life-threatening cases which could involve hospital admission. Lyle McEwen is so overcrowded that it was subject to a safety notice in late 2016. It frequently diverts patients to Modbury. The dedicated ambulance shuttle from Modbury to Lyle McEwen stopped operating on the 31st of March. And the number of patients who attend the Modbury ED has not changed significantly, and the cases seen by the ED are more complex, not less. As Dr Davidson, the head of the Modbury Emergency Department, said in October last year, we now have no acute services beyond the ED other than general medicine. So the loss of intensive care and anaesthetics, particularly out of hours, makes a difference to the care that the ED specialists can provide. And SA Health's own data has confirmed that under Transforming Health, the performance of the Northern Adelaide Local Health Network has deteriorated. Modbury's surgery focuses on day surgery involving up to 23-hour hospitalisation, only about one-third of Modbury's previous load. And without critical backup for both treatment and diagnosis, Emergency cases have to be diverted to other hospitals. Older patients and other complex cases are more likely to have care scheduled at another hospital. And again, quoting from Dr. Davidson from last year, basic hospital admissions can no longer be admitted at Modbury Hospital. Many country hospitals have access to general surgeons, and not to be able to offer this basic service, to me, is a failure of adequate care. Now, we also understand that the ED is having trouble recruiting staff and covering overnight shifts. There's been loss of ability to train and teach medical students, specialist trainees and nurses. Again from Dr. Davidson, there is still the daily battle for staff. Managing problems and morale is at an all-time low. When Transforming Health was announced, the Modbury Hospital was going to host an eye hospital for the whole of Adelaide. The government has cancelled those plans and now has no plans for an eye hospital. SA Health has recently tried to withdraw the inpatient medical emergency team and for emergency department staff to take on the hospital emergency call-out role. It is dangerous to plan for senior ED staff to leave their patients in an emergency department and be busy for hours in a separate building. Under Transforming Health, under this government, the cardiac inpatient unit at Modbury Hospital was closed. The member for Playford promised that cardiac outpatient clinics would continue, and in a news release dated the 7th of October 2015, he stated that, and I quote, "All current specialty outpatient services accessed at Modbury Hospital will remain." End quote. Now, initially, the outpatient department still performed echocardiograms, stress tests and urgent clinics for chest pain. Until around a month ago, the hospital offered urgent clinics for chest pain each week. The chest pain quick access clinic has now been terminated. Now a cardiologist visits Modbury once a fortnight. In the 2017 budget, Labor promised $250 million for the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as they scrapped Transforming Health, but only $9 million for Modbury Hospital. Labor plans to build a $9 million 8-bed emergency extended care unit at Modbury by 2020. The unit may act as a holding bay for patients awaiting transport. It will not undo the significant negative impact that Labor's chaotic Transforming Health agenda has had on Modbury Hospital. The Liberal Party, several weeks ago, I was very pleased, announced a series of policies to improve services at Modbury Hospital if we are successful in the election on March next year. After the Liberal Party policy was released, the government announced a review of Modbury services in September 2017. The government said it would take 2 weeks. It has still not settled. Now, at Modbury Hospital, the main impact has been in the area of surgical services. Complex surgery has been transferred to Lyle McEwen and other hospitals. Emergency surgery has been withdrawn and the HDU unit has been closed. The lack of an HDU means that often less complex surgery can be provided at Modbury because the person has other high-risk factors, a person with asthma or an elderly person particularly. A Marshall Liberal government will invest $20 million in Modbury Hospital to begin undoing the damage of Transforming Health and reassert Modbury's role as a community hospital. We will establish, if we're elected, a 4-bed high-dependency unit at Modbury Hospital. It would reduce risk to patients with more than one condition, making more procedures possible at the hospital. It would provide a base for a medical emergency team within the hospital. It will reduce the need for ambulance transfers to other hospitals. It would ease the pressure on the Modbury Emergency Department, and it would ease the pressure on the Lyle McEwen. A Marshall Liberal government will also support surgical teams on site to undertake emergency surgery for both emergency department presentations and patients within the hospital who need critical care. We would redistribute its surgical services across the northern hospitals, with Modbury taking a larger volume of the lower complexity surgery. The redistribution will be driven by the new health board, allowing people to get care closer to home and ease the overcrowding at the Lyle McEwen. We will increase the length of stay allowed for surgical inpatients at Modbury from 23 hours to 72 hours. If the hospital admission criteria were made more flexible, a larger range of cases could be undertaken at Modbury because the risk of a longer stay can be managed at Modbury. Modbury Hospital is an important hospital for the people of the northeastern suburbs. It's a hospital that anyone living in the northeast is likely to have had contact with. I had contact there the first time in 1989 in, I think, year 6 or thereabouts, when I broke my arm at a child's birthday party that the Minister for Transport and I were both at, and was taken to the Modbury Hospital and was given excellent care. And it's certainly always been a positive connection in my life and my family's life. So many people in the northeast use these services. I know the Liberal candidate for Newland, Dr Richard Harvey, tells me often when I speak to him about the impact and importance of the Modbury Hospital for his family and the important role it has played in the life of his 3 children. The Modbury Hospital is tremendously important, but what state has this government brought it to? Let me tell you, this morning at 8 a.m, every inpatient bed at both Modbury and the Lyell McEwan Hospital was occupied. Modbury Hospital had 123 inpatients, 3 more than the hospital's all-beds capacity of 120. Lyell McEwan had 421 inpatients and 1 patient waiting for a bed, 45 more patients than the hospital's all-bed capacity of 377. When every treatment bay in an emergency department was moved to an emergency department is being used, a code white is declared. On Monday afternoon, the 30th of October this year, the Lyell McEwan ED was code white for 16 hours straight. During that period, the Modbury Hospital ED was also code white for 7 hours straight. And yesterday, on Wednesday the 1st of November 2017, the Lyell McEwan ED was code white for 12 hours straight. During that period, the Modbury Hospital Emergency Department was also over capacity for 6 hours straight. These are the consequences of what has been wrought by this government upon the people of South Australia, the people of the North East, upon the Modbury Hospital. This is a government that campaigned. This is a government supported by marginal seat members of Parliament who campaigned on defending the Modbury Hospital. And the only person on that side of the House who seems to even be coming close to taking an interest in defending the needs of their constituents and the residents of Modbury Hospital is the member for Florey, who's had to leave the Labor Party in order to do so. And the fact that the Labor Party is so desperate to get her back, I think we've seen has led to them now having a review that was promised with results delivered in 2 weeks and improvements to come, fixing the errors wrought through the transforming health process. But that was promised weeks ago. We're within 2 weeks. It hasn't come up yet. The government obviously is still deciding how much they want to put towards reclaiming the member for Florey. And while it would be a worthy outcome if all of these political machinations did indeed result in better services for my constituents and constituents across the North East, isn't it telling about this sort of government that we have in South Australia that this Labor government's only reason that it is being dragged kicking and screaming to returning these services to the people of North East is because they want the member for Florey to be the Labor candidate for that seat? What an appalling indictment on the government. They should have known. They should have known that they went to the election with their posters, with their A-frames, with their call flutes at the last election, saying vote Labor in Newland, vote Labor in Wright to save the Modbury Hospital. And then they, of course, being the architects of its destruction, of cutting services, of withdrawing services. Madam Acting Deputy Speaker, this motion is important. It calls attention to the failure of those members to stand up for their community, the failure of this government to deliver the services needed by people in the North East. And if the government doesn't want to vote for this or against this today, if the government wants to move it off, or if the government wants to move against it, then this is the standard to which they will be held to account. I hope that the review that the government is putting in place to try and satisfy the member for Florey will indeed see good outcomes for our constituents and our residents. But what an indictment that it's taken this long, and I note they still haven't promised to do anything as a result of it. They still haven't even delivered this review. So, Madam Acting Deputy Speaker, I commend this motion to the House and I hope that all members will support it.
Thank you. The member for Playford.